Hi guys, welcome to episode 120. That's right, that's been 120 episodes this year. Today I'm talking to you about something that's really important. It's all about how to manage your money. What are the best money habits for 2017? How are you going to save more money? How are you going to make more money? And really, what are the habits of people who manage money effectively? Right? What are the habits? What are they doing behind the scenes? The things we don't see about them. Now, before we kick off, I'd love for you to do one thing. In the comment section, I want you to write down yes or no as an answer to this question. Do you feel that you currently manage your money well? Are you proud of the way you manage your money? Now, I know it's a tough question to answer straight after the holidays or in a holiday season when often we feel like our financial situation is very different to what it really should be. But do you feel that you manage your money effectively? Yes or no? Write it in the comment section so I can take a look. Research was performed around about 1,000 or 2,000 people looking at what the habits of people who were financially struggling were and the habits of people who were financially successful were. And these habits really give away a lot of insight for us into how we can manage things effectively. The first point that I want to share with you today is make sure that you're not saving after spending. Right? There's a great quote by Warren Buffett that I wanted to share with you. He said, "Do not save what is left after spending, spend what is left after saving." It's like, what's that trigger? What's the first thing that you think of when you get your paycheck? Is the first thing you're thinking of spending? Because if it is, we need to switch that around. We need to make our default mode saving. Knowing how much you save every month, letting that be saved immediately as soon as that money comes in through the door, and then after that, looking at how much you have to spend. They found that people who are happy with their money habits save 20% of their net income, right, as a default. These are real stats, really practical. You can break this down. When you're doing your finances for 2017, you can ask yourself, are you saving 20% of your net income? And then having the 80% there to spend. Remember, do not save what is left after spending, spend what is left after saving. Great to see so many of you tuning in online right now. Let me know what your questions are. Brittany, great. I budget very well, but the $2 here, $4 there is eating my money away in the hundreds each month. Thanks so much for sharing that. Totally agree. 2,000 about says Matthew on unnecessary things. Maybe that might not be too much. 1,000 says Linda. So it's great to see all of your insights and comments coming through. It's interesting, Brittany's raising that point. How many of us on the $2 and $4 here and there are stacking up, whether it's coffees, whether it's taxis, whether it's travel, whatever it is, right? So saving that money instantly is one good way to get around that. Now, these are some stats that you can do. Spend no more than 25% on rent, right? Do the stats, do the figures. Make sure you're spending no more than 25%, obviously much less is better, on your rent. Now, all of these successful people, the financially successful people, they spend no more than 15% on food. Now, this one got me thinking because I know I come from a home where we spend a lot of money on food, healthy food that is. And today, well-being and wellness cost so much. And I shared a quote on Facebook earlier today where I was saying that wellness can be expensive, but it's a lot cheaper than illness, right? The costs of illness are extortionate. They can be absolutely humongous. And therefore, an investment in your well-being, an investment in your health, even for the long term, something we don't see, something that may not be tangible, right? Illness is something we feel in the longer term. You may not be feeling that every day. But spending no more than 15% on food, I would just add that disclaimer there. If you're eating healthy, you've got to focus on your wellness, you've got to focus on your well-being. If it's costing that little bit more, absolutely fine, right? Make sure you keep that in mind. That's something that I definitely practice myself. Raj, how do you spend less than 25% on rent when you're a student? Well, that's a really good question. What do you do? One of the ways I'd look at that is definitely figuring out ways of getting income streams. When you're a student, students tell me they don't have time. I remember having 3 companies running on the side while I was a student as an entrepreneur at the same time. The more ways in which you can bring in income at that time is fantastic. Now, you may have your student loan paying for that rent. That's a different story altogether. Some of you may be fortunate to have your parents paying for that rent while you're a student. Some of these things, especially with rent, etc., may not apply, but they do apply to your other money habits, right? So think about that, or you can make it as part of your student loan or your student coverage that you receive. Now, this one's really interesting. Spend no more than 10% on entertainment, the cinema, right? Whatever it may be, weekly activities on entertainment. 10%. These aren't things that I've made up. These are actual research of people who are financially successful. People who also have lives, right? Not that these people are missing out on their social life. 10% on entertainment, bars, clubs, etc. And 5% on vacations. And maybe if you do the maths, you'll find that you're actually right. You're actually on the money. Now you may say, actually this year I spent a lot more because I went on a long travel. I took a sabbatical. I went traveling for 3 months. I went traveling for a month. I went to somewhere I've been saving up for. That's different. This is an average look at how to think about your finances in any given year, right? Definitely hone in on that. Do the maths. I guarantee you, even if you're out by 1 or 2%, it's just making you more conscious about your money. The more conscious you become about your money and your time, the more likely you're going to be intentionally focused in using it effectively, right? You'll be able to use it much more productively and effectively. That was rule number 1. I hope that this is useful. Priya, good question. This is percentages of net income, right? Percentage of net income after your taxes, after all that, after everything that's been robbed away from you and taken out. It's your net income. Ronnie, what percentage do you recommend to spending on education and investing in yourself? Well, I love that question, Ronnie. And one of the things I really recommend is shifting that entertainment budget or that vacation budget, using it as part of it. So I find that some of the most successful people in the world invest at least 10% of their net income in personal growth. That's books, courses, workshop, extra education, right? Evening courses, whatever it may be, spending time with the right people, attending the right conferences, right? 10 to 25% based on how much you're able to give, because that's building the foundations of new revenue streams. We'll go into networking in a moment. Thanks so much for asking that question. Rule number 2 is don't gamble. They found that 77% of those who struggle financially play the lottery, right? They play the game, they gamble. 77% of people who are struggling financially gamble. The advice is don't gamble. If you're gambling, right, and you're not winning a lot, maybe you're an online poker player, right? Maybe you're playing for entertainment, that's different, but still be careful. But maybe you're someone who's hoping that you're gonna get a quick rich scheme. A lot of these quick rich schemes online aren't real, right? And gambling is just the more obvious version of that, where it's all gamified, it feels exciting. But they found that 77% of people that are struggling financially gamble, right? So the advice was don't gamble, don't focus in on that. Great to hear that 10 to 25% on education and investing money in education that makes more money or makes us better to do what we do. Yeah, Ronnie, actually that's one of the biggest challenges actually, that there's a lack of investment. We hear a lot of people talking about follow your passions. I don't hear a lot of people say, something that I like to say is invest in your passions, right? You may be passionate about something, but that doesn't make you good at it. And that's one of the biggest missed points. People do what they're passionate about, but they don't invest in it. They don't upskill. They don't train themselves in that space. So actually, they never make something that can be monetized. They never invent something or create something that can actually lead to actual financial streams of income. And that's one of the biggest challenges. So investing in your passions is much more important than just following them. The third one, this is probably the one that I go on the most about, right? I have a show, many of you have seen it, called Follow the Reader, where I interview some of the best authors around. Just this year, we've had Tim Ferriss, we've had Gabby Bernstein, we've had Simon Sinek, we've had Deepak Chopra on the show. We've had so many great writers and authors who've come on to talk about their books. They found that successful people, financially stable, successful people, spent, right? Among those people, 88% read for 30 minutes or more every day, right? People who are successful financially read for 30 minutes or more every day, specifically related to career, finance, their skills, their passions, their purpose, lifestyle, self-development, growing their skills, right? Reading around those subject matters. It's something that many, many people miss very regularly, but definitely something that you want to take a look at. Reading. Now they found that of the people that are actually struggling financially, and this is the part that really all starts to add up, of the people that are struggling financially, only 1 in 50 read every day. 88% reading more than 30 minutes a day. And we're only talking about 30 minutes here. We're not talking about reading a book a day. We're not talking about reading a book a week. We're talking about reading 30 minutes every day. Only 1 in 50, right? A huge, huge number. And I'm going to give you some great statistics here of the people that are doing well financially. 63% listen to audiobooks during their commute. Something all of us can do, right? 63% of people reading audiobooks during their commute. 79% read educational, career-related material. 55% read for personal development. 58% read biographies of successful people, something I recommend. I spent my whole childhood up till the age of 14 believing that I hated reading because at school we were always told to read fiction books, which didn't appeal to me. And I remember my dad, when I was 14, handing me a biography. And I read it and it blew my mind because it was real. I couldn't believe that someone had actually gone through these challenges and achieved what they had achieved. And so recognize that reading the biographies of people that you admire is a phenomenal way of gaining insight. 94% read about current events. 51% read about history, right? Remember the Martin Luther King quote, if you want a new idea, read an old book, right? We had Stephen Poole from The Guardian, who wrote a book called Rethink. He came on Follow the Reader earlier this year. He's written a book about how all new ideas actually have a place in history. Another thing to take a look at, 11%, this is the interesting thing, only 11% read for purely entertainment purposes. Of the people that are financially successful, financially stable, financially conscious, only 11% read for entertainment. Notice the difference, growth versus entertainment. Growth has become their entertainment, right? Growth has become your entertainment. Any of you who watch the show daily, that's what it's all about. I'm hoping that these sound bites, hoping that these lives that you're tuning into every day are giving you that, are making growth feel like entertainment, are making growth exciting, are making growth something that you can really get stuck into and involved in. What should be the ideal expenses on donations and good deeds? Is it necessary? Yes, it is necessary. Great question, Shukla. One of the best ways is 10%. I've seen a lot of people 5 to 10% giving away. And I've also seen, more importantly, people giving something like 5 hours a week of their actual time. When it comes to charity investments, giving your time is not only more fulfilling for you, but it's more wholesome, it's more holistic to actually go out there and take part in something. So I think that's more a better use of your time as well as your finances, right? So thank you so much for raising that really valid point. Cindy, what are your views on using credit? Should people save for everything? Yes, I'm not a big fan, and actually the article talked about actually staying away from big credit card debts. Obviously, there are some of you that may be fantastic in managing it, making sure you're paying on time, making sure that number's not getting too high, etc. The articles that I read, looking at this research, showed that they didn't rack up. Financially successful people did not rack up high credit debt. So definitely something to take into consideration. How do I stay consistent and not get bored with daily habit of reading and listening to audiobooks? Great question. How do you do that? One of the best ways is don't make it a boring process. Take notes, switch it up a little bit, move between books. The challenge is sometimes we feel we have to read the same book until we finish it. I don't do that at all. Sometimes I only spend, on average, 2 hours reading a single book, grabbing what I need to learn. Read different chapters. Don't read it from start to beginning, right? Don't make it ritualistic. Focus in on what you want to learn from that book. Go in there and take out what you need. Look at it as a toolbox rather than looking at it as a book. Number 4 is all about how much you're tuned in every day to TV or the internet or watching things like Netflix, Hulu. Now, right, already name your favorite shows. I can already see everyone rolling their eyes and thinking, oh no, he's talking about me. I was looking through this list and I can agree that I need to start following most of this list. Luckily, this one is something that I've practiced for a long time. They found people that were financially stable, financially successful. 2/3 of them watch less than an hour of TV a day, right? And almost that same amount of that spend less than an hour a day online unless it's for their job. Notice, time on TV, time on the internet, less than 1 hour a day unless it's for their work, right? Now you may be convincing yourself that being on Facebook all day is good for your social media networking, but you're not doing social media networking, right? You may convince yourself that being on Instagram all day is great for you to spot the latest trends, but maybe that's not what you're doing with it. Notice that the time wasted in watching TV, watching Netflix or whatever it may be, and watching, being on the internet or online or social media or whatever it may be, could be redirected to focusing in on managing your money better, right? So I'm not saying not to watch Netflix. I'm not saying not to have entertainment in your life. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is just the habits of successful people. It's less than an hour instead of more than an hour. How many of us have ever spent 2 hours on Netflix, 2 hours on YouTube, ended up watching a video about Justin Bieber's mum, right? You just kind of like get lost in this wormhole, in this space of just finding useless information that's not benefiting any part of your life. It's so, so important to be careful. They found that the people who are financially struggling, 77% of them watch 1 or more hours of TV, and 74% spend an hour or more using the internet, right? Being online. Look at the stark difference. Look at, you may say to me, well, Jay, I just want to have a good time. That's cool. But then don't expect for things to change around in your passions, in your work, in your business. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. You can't expect to have both, because as you can see here, the habits of people shows a big, big difference, right? They're totally different. Sandy Hoskins, what should be the first investment I make besides in growing myself? That is the first investment you make, is growing yourself. And once you've done that, you'll get the ideas of what to invest in next. That's not for me to tell you. As soon as you start reading, as soon as you start plugging into self-development and self-growth, you'll know where you need to start putting in your energy. You won't need someone to tell you, Sandy. So I hope that you're going to do that, and I'm excited for you to do that. Drew, Jay, do you believe younger people are in more of a position to take financial risks before the complications of life take over? Well, I've seen and read stories of people taking financial or just general risks in life at every stage. But of course, at a younger stage in our lives, you have more of that flexibility. That's definitely a valid point. Number 5, this one's an interesting one, right? So just to give you a quick recap. Number 1 was all about knowing how to split your finances effectively. Number 2 was don't gamble. Number 3 was read every day, right? Follow the reader. Number 4 was your time spent on TV and online. Number 5 is controlling your emotions. They found that people who are able to control and be conscious about the way they communicated, selectively choosing the right words, being able to communicate with different types of people. The people that weren't able to communicate effectively, 69% of people who struggle financially weren't able to communicate effectively. They weren't good at managing their emotions. They weren't good at being selective about the words that came out of their mouth. If they wanted someone to go away or get lost or much worse things than that, they would say it. They weren't able to control their tongue. They weren't able to control the words that come out of their mouth. They found that 94% of the financially successful were able to filter their emotions in challenging situations, right? Learning, whether it's through mindfulness, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through focus exercises, being able to manage our emotions and our mind is key to us having better working relationships, better working decisions, being able to persuade, negotiate, connect with people, right? So definitely think about investing in courses on body language, right? Investing on courses in communication. That's definitely one way that you can have a look in. I'm seeing a lot of questions about my favorite books on money. Some of my favorite books, these are old classics, some of them. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of my favorite books as well. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill as well. I'm sure many of you have read that or come across that book. I've read also Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game. That's a great book as well. Those are some of my favorite ones. I'm sure if I think a little bit more, I'll be able to recommend some more as well. Kat Hunt says, what about listening to music? Listening to music while you do other activities is a fantastic way of also staying focused. Now, number 6, the ability to network and volunteer regularly. They found that financially successful people, 75% of them network, online, offline. Speaking to people, asking advice, finding people who can help you grow, finding mentors, finding people who can give you advice, finding people who are in your work, in your line of work, but further down the line, right? Really critical to have those role models, those influencers in your space. Because without them, it's really hard to see what's next. It's really hard to see what to do with the opportunities you have. Now, these mentors and guides don't have to be people that you call up every day, right? They don't have to be people that you're messaging every single moment of the day, but they have to be people that you can connect with around the bigger decisions. So that's definitely one to look at, right? And volunteering, helping others is such a huge, huge part of your own well-being and success, right? They say the giver receives more than the receiver. It's incredible, but science has shown it time and time again, whether it's a gift, whether it's time. The giver receives more than the receiver every single time. When you give, you win every single time, right? So definitely something to keep in mind. Number 7, right? I hope you're sticking with me. Of course, you can watch this on the replay as well, but number 7, 70% of the financially successful people pursue major goals. They found financially struggling people, only 3% pursue major goals in their life. Yesterday, I did a session on how to plan intentions and resolutions for the new year. If you missed it, you can see that online workshop. It was on the main HuffPost page. You can go back, you can find it on my Facebook page as well. I ran you through a 40-minute workshop on creating clarity and focus around your intentions and resolutions for 2017. You can always go back and watch that. Teresa, do you believe that an antisocial person can be successful? Teresa, if by that you mean introvert, yes. If by that you mean someone who doesn't want to talk to anyone, no, right? So introverts have great relationships. They connect really well with people. They just connect in a different way. When I say network, I don't mean you need to go to a networking party and hand your cards out. Actually, I definitely don't mean that, right? Don't be one of those people who turns up and just hands out their card to everyone. I'm talking about creating groups, networks, meetups, small groups of counsel, connections, where you can exchange with people in the way you like. For some people, it may be totally different to others. So yes, introverted people are as, and can be as, and if not more successful than even extroverted people. So that's definitely not something that you need to write off. Number 8, this is one I definitely have to take on board, but I can't do it during my show. They found that financially successful people talk less and listen more. The ratio is 5-to-1. Right? Listen for 5 minutes, talk for 1 minute. I believe there's a quote by the Dalai Lama where he said that if you talk, you're only going to hear what you know, whereas if you listen, you're going to learn something new. And I love that principle. When you're around people that you want to grow from, learn from, ask the right questions, right? I posted the thing on Instagram, I think it was last week, where I said that when you meet someone famous or someone you admire, don't ask for a picture, ask for some wisdom. Right? People rarely get asked questions. People get asked for a picture, they get asked for an autograph. But that picture and autograph is nowhere near going to be worth as much as that wisdom is to your life. Now, financially, yes, go and get that autograph or that picture. It'll probably be worth more in the long term. I find out that it was the artist Salvador Dali and also the actor Marlon Brando. They used to actually autograph receipts at restaurants and expensive places so that they didn't actually have to pay the bill, because the person collecting the bill knew they'd get more for that receipt of their autograph. But if you meet someone who you admire, ask them questions, right? Ask them for wisdom. Listen for 5 minutes. Speak for 1. Number 9. This is key, and this has been talked about for years. Many psychologists in the 1980s and 1990s used to say that you become the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. Today, you become the average of the 5 social media networks you spend most time on, is what I say, right? The amount we're plugged in and getting information and absorbing thoughts and ideas from people who are around us. They found that 86% of financially successful people associate with people positively, whereas they found that people who are financially struggling, 96% of them associate with people who are toxic for them, whether they're draining them, bringing negativity into their life. And it's hard. I know how hard it is to disconnect, but this is part of the process as well. We need to start connecting to the people that inspire you, motivate you, creating communities online. Number 10, they found that 93% of financially stable and successful people had a mentor. Right? I can't stress this enough. Finding mentors. And the reason why I say mentors is because you'll never be able to find one person who fulfills every need and every piece of advice you have. Find mentors for different areas of your life that you go to for different pieces of advice. Joshua, what is the difference between risk and gambling? What a fantastic question, and a great one that we're going to round up close towards. The difference between risk and gambling is that gambling is chance. Sometimes can be a calculated risk, but if you look at mostly, they're based on chance, right? You're by chance picking a bunch of numbers out unless you've mathematically analyzed what are the most likely numbers to come out in the lottery this week. It is just random chance. Whereas risk can be calculated and must be calculated. You look at the most successful entrepreneurs, it's not that they just went out and took a massive risk. It's that they calculated it. They thought about the idea. They asked the right people for advice. They looked into possible funding options, etc. So it's that calculated, conscious, intentional focus. It's not allowing chance or hope to make sure something's gonna happen. I hope those give you some great insights. I hope that gives you great advice. I want you to have awesome financial success in 2017. I'm gonna be here to guide you the whole way. Of course, you're gonna be able to join me every single day. We're gonna have amazing guests. We're gonna have more amazing shows, more amazing topics and themes. We're gonna be taking it to a whole new level. I hope that you're gonna stay with me and join me. If you have just joined in for the first time today, you can find me on Facebook at JShettyIW. Give a like to the HuffPost lifestyle page and the HuffPost main page so that you can get a notification every time I'm live. I hope you have an amazing New Year celebration. I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and stay in touch. See you guys very, very soon. Thanks so much.